It's time now for St. Helens Town Talk Cafe with your host, Steve Toski. The opinions heard on this program are not necessarily those of KOHI Radio, staff, or advertisers. You can call in now at 503-397-1600. Now, here's Steve.
Morning, and we've only had one so far, so I don't think we'll get too loose this morning, Jim.
Yeah.
I know.
Homemade mix is so good.
It is so good, and I understand that the Klondike Tavern tomorrow, in honor of the snow that's going to fall.
Yep.
Klondike serving hot buttered rum.
Yeah, we have house-made, chef-made hot buttered rum. And I was just talking with Holcomb, and we were like, what if we just did like half price on hot buttered rum if we can get open? You know, if whoever can get to work safely and wants to work, you know, go for it. We all are in the...
Well, it's Saturday, so we can pound hot buttered rum in the snow and
then just like sled home.
And walk home. Walk home.
Drag your friend home in a sled. I don't know.
You know, we are trying to generate more income here in State Helens, and so you better look out there. If you can have a few hot buttered rums, get your radio cab, get your drives home, you know, safe driving, but you can have twice as many because they're half price.
Yeah. There's also a ride share page on Facebook you can check on too if you need a driver. People are willing to do that. And it's not just about the DUI. Remember, it's about who else might be involved with your. You're having a good time, and people don't necessarily want to get involved with your good time. Yeah, we don't plan on over-serving a bunch of people, just a side note. There you go. I'm just kidding. But have a hot buttered rum here today. All right, let's go in our sound prison. We've got a couple guests here. We have Jeremy Hazenkamp. Jeremy, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well, Steve.
Good. And I understand you know Kim from the Klondike as well.
Yes, sir. It's a great restaurant. Enjoy the food they have there, and although they need to bring back the ribeye, just saying. Okay.
All right, and then we also have a visitor from another place, and he's here, Paul Wolf. Welcome, Paul.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Good. And Paul, I understand you are a big fan of the pork chop at the Klondike.
I like the Klondike.
Yeah, the bone-in pork chop.
I drive all the way from Northern California to eat it.
Wow.
Yeah, you mean you're here from California? You're visiting from California?
I am, Steve.
Oh my goodness! How the heck did you find this place from California?
I followed you, Steve, and actually, your lovely wife was the real target.
You know what? I follow her around too.
She is lovely.
She is lovely, isn't she? So we can blame it all on Robin. The fact that we have a visitor from Northern California.
No, Steve, you're going to keep that blame. Don't spread it to
I think
Robin.
You should thank Robin, right?
Yes.
Isn't that what we're going to do? Not blame, we could thank.
I thank Robin every day, frankly. I mean,
you should.
I do. Believe me. So Paul, and then if we're going to say come back, we have one for the ribeye and a vote for the bone-in pork chop, right?
Paul, did you take that off the menu?
Well, we changed them seasonally. Right now we have a pork cheeks on the menu, which is really good.
Yes, I've had that too. That's delicious.
Yeah, we have one that has apple cider braised pork cheeks, and it's served with this carrot butter. Like, it's literally that's what it is. They cook the carrots in the butter, and then they make a puree out of it.
So Paul,
it's like heavenly.
The food's good. The decor is very comfortable, but the service at that joint, that's really the reason to travel. We don't get service like that in California.
Yeah.
People don't got time like that.
Yeah.
And very friendly service, too.
Yeah.
And
that's what I meant.
Yes. Yeah, so Paul, I am curious, as a visitor from Northern California, and, you've got, how much time total would you spend here in St. Helens, would you say?
Well,
approximately.
So I've been coming since before the restrictions of the pandemic, back into 2018 or so, when you and Robin started spending a lot of time up here. A disclosure, I've known Steve 35 years. Yeah. And Robin. I saw them meeting in the swim pool 35 years ago.
Yes, thank you, Paul. Aww, he was there then.
That's cute.
He saw the romance
long
bud.
Before the children. And so when you moved up here, I'd always been interested, and now I have a child. The last 8 years I've been living in Portland. So I've been coming up, and when I come to Portland, I come here. And this place is fairly idyllic. Watching the river run from lots of places in this town, is peaceful and serene in a way you don't get many places. Certainly not in the United States.
It's a treasure.
And it's pretty. I mean, you got the trees, the mountains, the hills, the snow-covered mountains. Like, you know, it's pretty. We have all different kind of weather scenarios. And
they were showing off those mountains. Sorry for interrupting. They were showing off there to the the northwest this morning, peeking through this, and I was shocked at how close those mountains are to
Yeah.
The volcanoes.
They're full of snow today.
They're volcanoes. That's what those mountains are. And so, Paul,
constantly rumbling.
You're talking about the river. You get some kind of energy from the river?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes, you like that energy coming from the river.
I've been an ocean and a lake guy for a long time, and this place expanded my love of water.
The love of water.
It's tough to swim in, though, especially. It's like
polar plunge right now.
Well, don't go in.
Yeah, no way. Death plunge is more like it.
Robin will take us out there and swim against the tide.
Yes,
That's tough. It's not the tide at all. It's the river.
So Kim, so this little gem here. So you know we here in St. Helens love the place, and of course, and you hear Paul saying from somebody who's visiting and has visited quite frequently, what a special place this place is, St. Helens. And I think we've kind of been in a little bit of a bubble. You've been here way longer, right? How long have you been here?
Oh, I guess about 16 years now.
16 years. Yeah. Jeremy, how long have you been in St. Helens?
Oh, geez. Well, as I'm actually coming up on my 30-year high school reunion, so I graduated locally. And so I think it was, 92 I moved here officially, but our family goes back to when Scappoose was formed.
Wow.
Pretty close to that.
Which high school did you graduate from?
Scappoose.
Okay. All right. We're not going to hold that against you.
I know. Well, it's the rivalry thing, because my kids go to St. Helens now. So, it's like, okay, when they do the whole rival games, basketball, football, who do I vote or who do I root for? So,
root for your kids and then talk a little smack.
No, it's all good though.
So you grew up in Scappoose?
Yes.
And then now you live in St. Helens. You're raising your family here?
Correct.
Okay.
Just outside.
And your kids go to St. Helens High?
Yep.
Oh, that's great. So I'm kind of curious. So Jeremy, just so you grew up in Scappoose and you've got your family here, and they go to St. Helens High. And then what do you do for work?
I run a security firm.
All right, and tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we're based in Oregon, Washington. Prior law enforcement folks, public safety, we call them public safety qualified, which is military, past police cadets, different. They come from different backgrounds for our public safety qualified. But then we have our law enforcement qualified folks, which are people that have gotten out of law enforcement for various reasons. On their own accord and different reasons, and then also we have retired folks, people that have a lot of experience to put into things. I've had past police chiefs working for me, retired deputies, and city police officers, and then people that have gone into other lines of work outside of law enforcement, just given the current political climate for law enforcement. And, they also still like to stay a little bit connected, and we have some great projects going on they enjoy actually going and doing. So we do static posts as far as we're getting into alarm response and camera monitored cameras. We actually just added an explosive detection canine, and we're in the process of getting a firearms detection canine certified. So we do security assessments, a little bit of everything, anything in the law enforcement / type security realm.
So what's the name of your business?
PacTech Protective Solutions.
PacTech. Let's say that softly, because we've got a worldwide audience here. I'm sure people are scribbling it down right now in the corporate America, thinking, "Wow, this sounds good."
Yeah, PacTech Protective Solutions. It's kind of how it was. Kind of funny how I came up with the name. I actually had a training company when this kind of morphed into the security side of things before I got out of leaving law enforcement, full time. And I had a client say, "Hey, you know what? We want something that kind of rolls off the tongue, that sounds kind of tough. So it shortened from Pacific Tactical was the name of my product and training company to PACTAC Protective Solutions. So it's basically a division of Pacific Tactical, PTPS for short.
Everybody asks me this about my business. Where's your business based out of? Where's your office, if you would?
I would say our main office, just because there's not a lot of, we've been looking for some nice commercial area here in St. Helens, but majority of our office is based out of Vancouver, and then we've got another office up in Washington, up near the Seattle area.
Okay, and then how many? I don't want to ask you too much about, don't give away any company secrets, no. But how many folks do you have working for your company?
We run about 80 personnel.
80 people?
Yeah, not all full-time. We've got some guys that just come in and pick up on-call stuff when they have things that they need or want to, projects that happen. We get a lot of call for workplace violence reduction type stuff where, they want to put an armed person in their business during a time where they've had a high risk termination and things along that nature. And can you give us an example of some places that you've staffed that you can talk to us about? I'm kind of curious about how, I think of a security person, Kim, I'm thinking, the guy that's kind of walking around the place at night. You guys do that stuff? We have some. We kind of think of it. We're in between, what you've seen and locally. We've had a lot of people when they think about security, they're thinking about Paul Bart Mall Cop. I mean, that's realistically that's what they think. And there's a lot of that out there. You have a lot of companies that just hire people. It's either they can go. And I hate to say this, but this is kind of the industry, and that's why I'm getting involved in the industry. We're really trying to bring it up. DPSST is actually doing some very good things in making it to where it's, there's employee protection, from companies that just hire people, and then, they don't have the capital to pay people, so they wait till they get paid from the client, and they'll go out and take the work. And anyway, so it's either go work at McDonald's or they go work security has been the industry standard. But since the reduction in law enforcement, either through budgeting or restrictions put on them by political bodies, they're not able to get out and do the work that they should be doing a lot of times. So clients are looking to bring in their own, people that work directly for them. So they have their interests at heart. They're not worried about them being pulled a million different directions. I think, in law enforcement, I experienced this in my 22 and a half years full time. And then, I retired out of Columbia City Police Department as a part-time officer, and then still stay on as reserve. But what we were seeing is, there's all these restrictions and all these they're putting a lot of restrictions on what they do. A lot of times, if you would call to deal with something with property, law enforcement will say, well, based on the governmental interest, we can't get involved because if we should happen to get involved in this and it becomes a use of force, we were just called there for a property thing, and they didn't, so...
government's trying to get to outsource their property crimes law enforcement to security firms?
I wouldn't say they're no, they're not outsourcing. It's what it is they're just saying, you know what, this is what the general public, or at least the squeaky wheel, wants, is they don't want... What they really need to do is let law enforcement do law enforcement duties, because a lot of it goes back to NYPD and the broken windows policing, essentially, which what it was is, and if you're familiar with that, but what happened is, in the 80s, New York was, a wash and crime. They had a lot of violent crime, and what they did is they started focusing on the smaller stuff. The double parking was a big one then. When the criminal mischief, tagging, all that stuff, they started focusing on those crimes, and guess what happened?
No, I don't know.
We had a violent crime reduction to where we got to before the whole depolicing and whatnot.
Is there some kind of... I'm curious, is there some kind of documentation on that?
There has been, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so, there's quite a bit of it.
So actually you can statistically show that by clamping down on kind of minor type crimes, that reduces the larger volume of crimes in general, the serious ones.
Correct. And what we're seeing in like the Portland metro areas, where obviously we do a lot of work. We've been manage.
I think you need more work to do there, by the way.
There's plenty.
Believe me, and that's why, through not having necessarily advertised, we get a lot of word of mouth once they see the work that we're doing. We're really trying to leverage technology and putting our officers where is needed, our protection officers, going and taking care of stuff. And the other thing that we're able to do because of the experience level of the folks that I have is, typically if they're not there in time to solve something, they're able to start putting together from an intelligence type of standpoint to get it solved and liaison with law enforcement to help them, because 9 times out of 10, these are people that are they're not just doing it. This isn't the first time, and this isn't the last time that they've been doing something. So, really, if you focus on 10% of the people, they're probably 90% of the problem. And so
they wouldn't like that. Paul is an ex-criminal defense attorney, just so you know.
I knew that was going to come out.
I know. Well, now it's coming out. About focusing on 10% of the people, Paul.
So listening to Jeremy, a couple things have come to mind.
Oh, God, here we go.
No, I'll try to make it quick, Steve.
That's good.
We got to debate.
We only have an hour. We're
not going to debate.
Okay.
You heard the part about being retired?
Yes.
Yeah,
I can only imagine. You guys have a lot of stories, too.
In Oakland, California? Oh, man.
Oh, yes.
For 40 years.
How many repeat customers did you have?
They kept coming back. The amazing thing was that I think in one case I got to the 4th generation. I was representing a great-grandchild.
Oh, wow.
The families kept coming back.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's called good for business.
No, it's an unfortunate environment.
It is.
So, but the thing I like is and I honor, is that you're sending some of your folk out there to places where someone has been terminated, because you read those stories, and that's predictable. But that's righteous security work, because the person is going to show up at least with one gun.
Yep.
Well,
and they're going to be...
Is that a reason not to fire anybody? We're not firing anybody here at the cafe.
I'm good.
Get that guy back on the payroll.
Right,
Tell him it's okay. Get him back in.
We're
you misread where I'm going, Steve.
Yeah.
Maybe just for a joke, but no, you read those stories, and this is so predictable. And I didn't realize that security firms were not doing that, and I should have. And that's good, but...
Well, because they don't have...
As I say, it's righteous work.
What do you think about 90%? If you focus on 10% of the people, you're getting at 90%. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but 80 to 90% of the problem is coming from 10% of the people. What do you think of that?
It's not 10%; it's less. But
oh my God!
See, and I've been vindicated by a retired criminal defense attorney,
and a very good one too, by the way.
Yeah, don't we call that damned with fate praise? The other thing you brought up that I found interesting, the police and what's happened to the police, and what you ascribe the crackdown. I mean, in Oakland, they're not doing much, and I'm not going to get into it, but it's close.
He lives in Oakland, by the way.
I got grandchildren in the jurisdiction now, right? So my whole attitude is different. Public safety, enforce the laws.
Yes.
Keep my kids, keep my grandkids, keep
safe.
My friends, keep me. I'm old, safe. But and they're not doing enough. We have. I was the victim finally, unfortunately, in 2020 December, of a first-degree burglary where it was hot prowl. I came into the garage and they ran out. Call the police. Yeah, fill it out online. I said, wait a minute, this is a serious violent felony, and it was a hot prowl. Fill out the police report online. And then when they started to steal my credit, I had to deal with the FTC, and they wanted an actual paper police report. So I called the police department. Fill it out online. I go, come on. The federal government wants to help me protect my credit, and I need a police report. Fill it out online. That's a
What's
problem.
An FTC? So we know you got to help
Federal Trade Commission.
Trade Commission. Yeah.
So they wanted some paperwork that you could help us out understand
if you are ever so unfortunate, I didn't realize this myself, even being in criminal justice for so long, or adjacent to criminal justice, to try to protect your credit, you not only have to deal with all of those credit companies, but you also have to deal with the Federal Trade Commission in Washington. They're the ones who are assigned to really protect you nationwide.
Profiles and stuff. Exactly. When you start getting lots of it.
Exactly. How do you address that? Thank God, St. Helens doesn't have this problem. And
I don't know. We don't. I'm curious.
Don't the police respond?
Well, hang on one second. Don't jump ahead now. I want to
every time I've called them, they have.
Yes, they have, and that's true. Every time I call the police, they are there, and they answer the phone, and they call me back.
I've never had an issue.
But isn't that the kind of place we all want to live in? Especially if you have children and grandchildren.
It gives you a sense of safety. You know somebody's there to help if you need it.
Yeah.
It is, and I think this is also kind of it's a balancing act, because we have a lot of people that talk about taxes and paying more for services, right? And who are the users of those services? So we can add more taxes, but who's really the ones that are the recipients of those services? When you have a publicly funded entity, and this is why there's been a huge shift or people taking and going, you know what, I need to hire my own people to look out for my security and safety for my clients or my employees, and there's even some government mandates, especially being from California. We're seeing one about active threat plans and things that they're going to be mandated to have for businesses, right? So, they're going to be starting mandating that. And so what these folks are going is, and you can listen to the scanner in any small town, city, and you're going to hear repeated addresses, domestic situations, known drug houses, and things like that, right? And all those things do affect the crime rate in the county or the city that they're in, and they are a drain on resources. You hear about the overdoses at certain addresses, all these things, right? But when you get a burglary and you're a tax-paying citizen, those resources are tied up dealing with those things. So when you start looking at who is the recipient of the service and what is actually being put into paying for that service, you kind of go, is there a benefit to me to keep paying more taxes for us to put more resources towards this when I can't get a school resource officer at my school because of staffing, or I can't get, all these excuses and things that are brought up. I can't get an officer to come take a report and even look at, there might, because that one I can guarantee you that burglary suspect, that isn't the first burglary that he committed in that neighborhood. And, and everybody thinks, well, jewelry, guns, yeah, they want guns, they want jewelry, but the reality is what we're finding is some of the most beneficial information for them things for them to steal is all of what they call your profiles, right? Those are sold on the black market and the dark web and all that. And the next thing you know, you've got, 10 different, if you have really good credit, you're having all these things popping up. And as busy as we are these days, we don't have time to monitor all that. And that's why, I say, having a security professional be able to help you with those areas that you're exposed to, right? And even, having the proper, everybody wants to go get Ring cameras. Hey, believe me, if that's what you can afford, I understand that. But the things we've got to think about is who's watching that Ring camera when you're home on vacation, right?
Usually they got the... sometimes they have monitored, the security companies.
You can, but a lot of times you got to look at, it's the perfect thing with the alarm company. You think about how a normal alarm response goes for your alarm. And what does your alarm tell you? Your alarm tells you that somebody's broken into your house. Somebody's gotten inside your perimeter because, they've broken a window, they've kicked in a door, they've gotten in. That's what it tells you. And most of the time, police departments, when it comes to alarms, they're going to go, well, is there multiple trips? Or, on the quickest on a time when people are available, they're going to maybe get there within 5 minutes between the time the alarm company, first what they're going to do is they're going to call you, and they're going to say, should anybody be at your house? Because they've got so many false alarms. And they want to save you from the false alarm fee from the police department. And
deserved, by the way.
What's that?
Deserved.
Yeah.
Deserved.
And so they call, and then they don't get a hold of anybody. So then they're like, okay, well, we better than per protocol. When you most of these call centers that alarm companies, they go into like one or two different businesses, and they have a set script, and they can't deviate from that because they're not security officers, and the companies don't want to face liability or have to pay those false alarm fees because they didn't follow protocol. But then by the time it even gets to the 911 center, you're talking, it could still have already been 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. And again, we'd have to go get exact numbers. But then you have, and I was helping with an active shooter event training before the Westside Medical Center for Kaiser opened up. because I was doing some training munitions, and so I was there helping them with extra, training guns and things like that, so they could shoot people and have them not die or go to the hospital.
Why? Why? Isn't deadly force deadly force?
Not when you're training for it, right?
Come back, Steve.
Yeah, pretend.
Oh, okay. Right. That's for sure. Yeah, I didn't want to. Wait, you're shooting people and then they're not dying?
Again, this is an exercise.
You're treating people how not to kill people with a gun? I'm trying to figure that one out.
You've got to pay them a lot to get killed during a pretend session.
Yeah. It's the one training session you don't come back from.
Yeah,
okay, sorry.
But
I'm slow a little bit.
Hey, no worries. But what we saw is, I was standing right there with the proctor of the exercise, and they had police and fire stage, and they wanted to do this full-scale event. And so what they had happen is I watched the shooter walk through the front doors of the hospital and shoot the first person. And then somebody in there was going to get to their phone, call 911 to go through the dispatch center so that we wanted to see what the full exercise looked like. The quickest the call was dispatched, right, even knowing this was a known event, the quickest the call was dispatched to the police officer was 1 minute and 30 seconds.
It's pretty fast.
Okay, the first officer
can get shot.
But hold on, because I remember I'm on the ground watching.
Well, it's not Star Trek. You can't beam me to the location.
Well, exactly, and that's going to come into having someone on site for immediate intervention, right? So the first shot goes off. 1 minute and 30 seconds for the quickest it was dispatched. The first officer staged 2 blocks away that got on scene was 3 minutes and 30 seconds. The shooter was through the hospital, had shot multiple people, and was done shooting before the call was ever dispatched. So to me, that showed that, we really need to think about what is our immediate intervention. And when you start looking at statistics and things like that, what we see is and it doesn't have to necessarily be but when there is, we always want to back up the timeline as far back as we can, right? It's the same thing that I look at with security systems and cameras and all that. I want to push that protection bubble out as far as I can. So the reality of it is, instead of waiting till they get inside your perimeter where your alarm is, I want to put it to the edge of your property, and I want someone to be able to get on and start talking to them. We see that with that immediate intervention and interaction, when they go, somebody, not just a recording, somebody is immediately talking to me, which is kind of the same mentality that we start seeing, these active threat things. And obviously, that's a whole other topic we can talk about prevention and predicting.
Well, hang on one second. So what you're saying is that if somebody's there, it helps. Is that it?
Somebody's there. Somebody is interacting with them, and they know that it's not just a recorded voice.
Okay.
So we're talking about protecting your property.
Let me ask you this question. So your services. So we're talking armed security.
We do some unarmed as well, depending.
But you have armed security.
Yeah, but that's mostly what it is our law enforcement. We have our law enforcement qualified folks, which are prior law enforcement, whether civilian, reserve, civilian law enforcement, military law enforcement, or whatever. We also do investigations as well, private investigations. So we've got
wow, cool.
So we've got a variety of things in that realm to where clients.
So if you have armed security, and there's an active shooter, you say your guys are going to run and go shoot this guy? They're not going to go the other way?
Yeah, that's the reason why.
They're there?
Yeah.
They're there to do it.
They're there. It's there. They are there to protect life, right?
Wow.
And that's, if you've been to, we provide services for the Best Buy stores. So if you've been to a Best Buy store in the last 3 years, you've seen our officers, our uniformed officers there. And that was when they started, actually before the pandemic, they started seeing this uptick in retail theft. And it wasn't just them going in and grabbing product, but there was an uptick in threats of violence towards employees and whatnot. And they said, you know what? We care enough about our employees and the environment in our store that we want to make sure that there's a qualified person there to deal with anything and de-escalate. Because, 9 times out of 10, we want to handle everything through de-escalation when you can. There's going to be a percentage of the time where no matter how you talk to somebody, what you say, what you do, what you threaten, what you offer, you're not going to change their mind in doing something.
And everybody's trained in de-escalation.
De-escalating.
I couldn't figure the word out.
I like de-escalation is fine too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the nice thing, and so there's been, and you've seen, if you've been into any of the stores in the Portland metro area, you've seen that in Target.
So here I want to jump in here on this thing. So, you've seen it in Portland, but this hasn't come out on the show, but I did ask somebody who is at a local store here, what, I asked this person, and they've got 28 employees at locally. They hire, and it's a retail store. And I asked this person, what's your number one fear about your store not being able to continue to do business in St. Helens? And I thought the answer is going to be not enough customers, people don't spend enough money here, people buy their stuff online, we're brick and mortar. She said her number one concern about the threat to the business was the grabbing of property and running out of the store. That she thinks that, and so I guess, is that becoming a problem here in St. Helens?
I mean, you'll always, this has been going on, like Fred Meyer's, for example, you would get stacks of Levi's going out the door. Back when I was with the state police, we actually started a case that involved a death, but it was all surrounded around the drug trade and the retail theft, right? Tide and baby formula was the big thing, and these boosting crews would go up and down I-5 all the way from the border down, and they would bring stuff northbound, and then they would go southbound with product, so they were basically making money both ways, and and that's also funding a lot of these, a lot of the gangs and whatnot. They don't care where the money comes. What their true motivation isn't getting drugs, and it's making money, right? That's what it's all about, is money and power. So they don't care where they get the money. And so if I can get, if I can have people, and especially now that back then you had a lot of prosecution on even certain thefts, theft threes, which I think now, again.
Are we prosecuting that here, though? If you grab and you run out, they're going to prosecute you?
I think it depends. I'm not sure what the DA's office here currently is doing. Mm-hmm. I know that depending on how busy, you might get an immediate response from a police officer. If it's anything that needs to be investigated from theft stuff, they may not. And it also depends on if the store has their own loss prevention and can actually write a report and get the video and put the case together for law enforcement. Because that's where we're finding a lot of our niche is, with guys that have report writing experience. We're putting the whole package together so that we can, help them identify some of these groups that are doing things, not just the one time, go in and grab a candy bar and leave kind of thing, right? Those are the things that.
Well, I'm not worried about candy bars.
No, but you are seeing a huge organized retail theft group. In fact, there's a lot of organizations that are nonprofit that some of the different loss prevention groups have put together to share information, and a lot of the major corporations are getting in on that. And then there's also some organizations with small business out of Portland that are trying to help that with our small business. So there are some organizations that do help with some of these businesses.
So let me shift a little bit. I'll kind of jump around a little bit here. So we have this big parade, Halloween Town parade, that I think if people actually get planning it earlier, I think there's going to be some need potentially for some security. So you guys could. Were you guys asked to be involved in the Halloween Town thing?
We actually, so I volunteered my company and my services. We actually did the security management for the event.
This one?
For the last one, yes.
Okay. All right.
I volunteered all of our time. They didn't pay for any of our services. Obviously, we knew that there's going to be a lot of people. We were trying to make this a public-private partnership. This is happening in California a lot. You're seeing police departments working together with security agencies, in which they're either actually hired directly by the city for some instances to augment, because obviously we know what's going on with retention and hiring of law enforcement. So they're either overseen by police departments, but there's also things that we don't necessarily have to have police officers doing.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out that. So if So let's talk about trends in St. Helens. You as somebody...
May I interrupt for just a second?
Yeah.
Jeremy,
yes.
You talked about comparing to California. I'm telling you right now, security firms in California are not volunteering their time for the biggest event in St. Helens.
No.
Yeah. Kudos to you, man.
You know what? I'm about community. Obviously, I've run for office. I've been elected to an office. I've always grown up here. I believe in this, and any time that I can get involved with projects here, I could have said, you know what, I'm not going to take it on. I don't want to do it. But you know what? I was willing to do that because I think that Halloween Town Parade is an important thing for this community. Mm-hmm. And you look at the Rose Festival Parade, right? How many people come down to the Rose Festival Parade? And they're lucky. They have some great sponsors. Alaska Airlines, I think, sponsored last time. But there are a ton of people, and if you took the ratio of things that go on, and the number of police officers they bring in, ODOT comes in, it's a multi-functional or multidisciplinary thing coming together. So, I know there were some comments made about, well, we don't work with these people, but if you look at all the major events, it is a coordinated effort. And I think even the Rose Festival Parade has a security director or manager that is not a police officer. And they help coordinate. It's not about, well, I'm in charge or you're in charge. It's all about let's get the thing done. And the thing about the Halloween Town Parade is look at how many. Yes, for 2 to 3 hours or one night, there might be some inconvenience to the people in town. But I'd love to hear from the businesses on, when every time you go, Klondike, all these restaurants, how many times do they sell out of food on those nights? Could there be some more coordination?
That day our chef got stuck in traffic on the way back to bring more food because we sold out of hamburger buns or something crazy
right.
Like that.
Hey, maybe we need to start a shuttle service on the river and bring we'll start getting the boats, on that night. It's like, hey, we're not going to have a traffic jam on the river, so let's boat it up.
I like the idea of,
that's smart.
Right. I think the tourism contract is being thought about and reconsidered, and one piece that I think is missing from our tourism contract is that Halloween Town's making a lot of money. We've got a lot of ticket sales, and realistically, we cannot continue to think of this as a volunteer event. Well, and that's a good point. Thank you, you're a hero for showing up and trying to affect in a volunteer capacity to try to help out with something like that. But at some point, you're going to need to say, okay, what are our resources? We need to write some checks, and we have the money to do it, but we have no mechanism whereby a private event, this is not connected with tourism, can apply to say, hey, look, we're going to put on a parade, 20,000 people are going to show up. We need...
I don't think they had any idea that many people were going to show up, right?
We know that there's going to be a lot, right? Yeah. Every year it's grown in popularity. And, and to say, well, we need to count for every safety and security concern. Yeah, we want to try to do as many as we can, but it's how do you contain the forest, right? As the old thing.
Well, there are ways to manage.
There's ways to management, and you can. It's all about risk management.
And you're talking to a couple guys from California. We've been to some big events.
Well,
there's ways to manage them. That's right.
For example, the Macy's Day Parade, right? Macy's Day Parade is something that's put on by a business, and they foot the bill and all this, and I think that there's been a lot detracted from, this is taking away from me, or I can't get here. But what this does is it puts St. Helens on the map, and it does bring a lot of money in a short period of time into the community to help. So I think that, as a business owner, I can't sit by and just go, I'm not getting paid for it, something in my community. I think that is important. I think the Columbia County Fair, I did the same thing. There were some contracting things there that, dealing on it. But, to cutting the amount of revenue just because I wanted to make sure that we had a safe environment, and people feel safe coming into our community. I think that's very important.
I honor your modesty. But people stand by. Business owners do stand by for many reasons, and they always fall back on liability. You can't catch every problem, like you were saying, but keeping people safe correlates with having fun, correlates with keeping them coming back, correlates with making some money.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. And that's the old underlying thing. I mean, it's, everybody, we have to keep the lights on. We got to keep our employees fed and housed and clothed. I mean, we don't want a bunch of naked people running around.
We've been moving. We've been moving in this direction for many years, where St. Helens is trying. It was written up in the newspaper. I think St. Helens is Halloween Town is the #1 Halloween event in the state, and like the 4th in the country or something. It's huge, and so I think there's a suspended. This for me. Don't hate me for saying this, but from somebody who's come from the outside and is now living here, the idea that we are in this bubble and we aren't really part of. We're kind of hidden from the rest of the world. And Robin, we talked about Robin. Her grandfather used to have a bumper sticker on his RV, and it said St. Helens, the best kept secret. which Paul says, hey, what a gem of this place, what a treasure. It's not the best kept secret anymore. I hate to say it, folks. It
was viral this last year, like on TikTok, I guess. It just went nuts. Halloween Town. Social media took it to a whole nother level.
We got what we asked for. We've created this.
We definitely have the people now.
And that's the thing. We can't just stick our heads in the sand and say, oh, we don't want it. It's inconvenient. It's here.
Well,
it's something that we've been... we could...
how are we... we found success, and now we're afraid of our own success? No, I think what we need... But what we need to do is... and as much as you're heroic for your volunteer efforts... we have to understand that the real world that we do live in, and we have to take measures to protect these events, make people have a good time, just like we said, and that means money. Meaning, your firm should not be doing this on a volunteer basis. The police should not be doing it on a volunteer basis.
No,
we need to have $100,000 set aside for Halloween Town Parade, and that's we need to have a budget. We need to figure out how much it's going to cost. We need to do it right, and that's how we roll.
I think a big challenge this year was there was no parking down there.
Well, there's a lot of things that were just definitely going against it.
Yeah, it was rough
but the other part of this that I think is there's a lot of this is a huge.
Well, hang on, we got a call coming in.
This is a huge. This is a huge event. This is a huge thing for the state, even, right?
Tina Curry, our Halloween Town person. Oh my God, she's listening.
Can I hear the end of Jeremy's?
Yeah, go ahead. We'll go ahead.
So this is this is a huge thing for the state, and if we have and I just met the new emergency management person, right? If we bring all of these agencies together, public and private partnerships are where everything is moving, and for somebody to say public is only going to do it, public is the only way, we can't do that. There's a lot of funding mechanisms for private. There is and there's some, I'll tell you, there's a lot of people, qualified people, leaving law enforcement and different public entities to go into the private sector.
Yeah.
Because that number one, it's a better working environment for them, and they're tired of being overworked and underappreciated and things like that, and they're taking a lot of that experience with them. So so if we reach out and you look at things like St. Paul Rodeo, Oktoberfest, they put out a call every year for reserve police officers to come help us out with it for free.
All right, let's hear what our tourism contract. Well, hopefully our tourism contractor who has been successfully doing tourism. So how do I get her on the line, Marty? What do I do? On the phone, the blinking button.
There you go.
Tina, welcome to the cafe. How do you like the hot buttered rum?
It's absolutely fantastic. It's 1 o'clock somewhere.
I know, exactly, and it's only half price on the Klondike. So obviously we've got you calling in about the parade, which is not an event that E2C put on, but it is. We're enjoying the success of the E2C's Halloween Town program, and then we've got all these people mobbing in. And what sparked your call here?
Well, just the complete lack of information that is, out there about the parade.
Okay.
And, it absolutely wasn't the busiest parade that ever happened in St. Helens, but it was a parade that didn't have anything on First Street for the very first time. Yeah. So everybody was crammed into the area, which typically holds, multiple thousands of people that go down First Street. Because of the construction, that didn't happen. Everybody got pushed into the other areas of town, which made it just that much more congested there.
Let's talk about that.
This wasn't our most populated Halloween we've ever had either. So there's some misinformation out there. Also,
misinformation.
I'd like to ask some questions. Why would anyone want to put on a parade and then have the chief of police sit there and slander you?
Wait, hang on. We're not going to go there. What we're talking about
that's the fact of the matter. You want sponsors, you want all this money to come in for the parade, and then you have the chance that everybody's going to get slandered.
Well, let's just call this. Here's what I say from somebody from another place. We're talking about growing pains here. We really are. When I talk about the bubble being gone, it's gone, and we are now part of the real world. And we need to. We're like somewhat. I hate to say it, but Kim, I think we're kind of a little childish here. About how we treat each other and. What do you think about that, Kim?
I don't know.
I don't know about that. Here we got people bickering and stuff. But here's the bottom line, and that is this: we don't have a system in place for these kind of events, and I think that this kind of goes to what I see as a systemic issue with the city, and that is we aren't anticipating what's going to come, and what happens is we're not ready when it hits, and so. We need to be preparing and helping people that are trying to do good and trying to help out. We need to be preparing, have a plan in place. Kim says, "Oh my God, people were surprised." Me, I was not surprised at all how many people showed up.
No, and I don't know why they would be surprised.
I think
done it before.
No, I've been there for many, many years. I think this year was more challenging for us because there was absolutely no parking. So it just kind of it took a huge hit on our business. There was one weekend that we started a Saturday with dump trucks in our, intersection, and people couldn't even walk across the street to our restaurant because everything was shut off. Well, there was a lot of challenges this year, and, not being able to even come down the road with hamburger buns from the store for 2 hours was an issue for us.
And really, we could talk about past stuff, right? But I think the most important message here needs to be is, AARs and not pointing fingers at anybody, but going, the gals that put on the parade,
which was a ton of work, by the way.
A ton of work. And if anybody has never...
Wait. This is a private event put on by people. And, this is a point that when somebody's putting on a private event and they attempt to get support, and, the conflict here is, I didn't get the support I was asked for, and then there's a controversy about, whether somebody's taking responsibility for not providing that. And I'm not in the middle of this. I can't say I'm an expert. Tina's thrown some stuff out there.
I'm not throwing anything out there that isn't public and isn't in the public record.
That's true. It is on the record.
But I guess my thing with this whole thing is, the credit needs, they took this on, they started it. If anybody, you run a business, we all run businesses. If anybody understands what it's like to run a business and then also step out and do something else, I think that, they should all be getting kudos. So, but I also don't want to rehash.
I want to rehash some things. We're rehashing right now.
How many people picked up the phone and said, "Hey, thanks for giving me all this great business," despite the fact that
and that's really what
there
needs
were some
to happen.
issues. I'll bet you they didn't get 5 phone calls from business owners.
Yeah, and I think that's another. So here, I want to come back to planning because we're talking about the parade, but Halloween Town in general, the city went ahead without meeting with a single business, without talking to a single citizen, and they decided, by the way, our city has nobody that has been involved in any kind of construction, like construction planning, I think, on this kind of thing. But they did not go out and talk to the businesses. And what they did is they completely shut off the parking to the downtown where we normally park, 1,000 cars or tons of cars.
Yeah.
Right. And they said, you know what? We're going to cut off the access road to the parking. We are not going to allow for parking. And that really set up the problems that we had, and it shows, to me, my opinion, absolute indifference to our businesses.
Yeah.
It shows absolute indifference to our successful program. It shows absolute indifference to the people that come here, because they're coming here from all over the world, and what they decided to do is just to go ahead, put the blinders on, shut off our parking, and make it incredibly inconvenient for everybody. And basically, our city literally dropped a poison pill into the drink of the goose that lays the golden eggs.
There's a mixed metaphor.
Thank you.
I don't have an opinion or a criticism. I have a question. Does that also include the closing of First Street? Why would you reduce the venue as this place gets more
No, we always close First Street, but not for the parade.
Tina, as far as numbers go, each year, is it just going up? Is it going down? Is it staying the same?
No, I mean,
just so we're not misinformed.
This wasn't our biggest year ever.
So what?
So that's a misnomer, but I can see why people think it was, because having First Street closed during the parade means that all those people that typically line up on First Street were just shoved into the other area of the parade route. And the parade route was not bigger, it was smaller.
Yeah.
So of course, it's going to, and then when the parade was over, oh my God, everybody just walked. I have a picture of it. It is literally wall-to-wall people walking down First Street.
Yeah.
All right, Tina, I got 3 minutes.
Whole area.
I'm going to ask you a controversial question here. So my advocacy is, this is my opinion, and I know you're the contractor trying to manage some funds here, but I think there should be some funds freed up so people can apply. I think funds set aside.
Apply for what?
Apply for funds so that they can pay for security, pay for extra things if they want to put on some kind of event as an augment to Halloween Town or any other tourist event. So what do you think about a couple $100,000 or $100,000?
Well, no, it wouldn't be possible, but
wouldn't be possible.
The fact of the matter is that people that put on events and know how to put them on don't need to be subsidized. They would go out and they would get all of their sponsors, just like the Rose Festival Parade.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to say that
I
don't know how
St.
much the hotel tax.
Are we going to get them from?
But what I will say though about resources,
Portland's parade.
And Tina, what I want to say about resources is there's a lot of we see this at events all over the state. When I was with the mobile response team for the state police, we would see that there's invites, and agencies would gladly give up people as long as we coordinate that. And I think that's
100%.
That's the biggest thing. I think is a cohesive, full, public-private, getting involved in this instead of saying we can't support this. I think that's the biggest thing.
Right, we don't have any officers at our event at all, so that that is a huge thing that people don't know. We literally, I think, had one police officer that came through our event in a car.
Okay.
During 7 weeks.
I got 1 minute. You know what? We're going to have to somebody says we're running out of rum for the hot buttered rum, and so Kim and I are going to have to run out of here and go get some. And so Tina, thank you for calling in, and Jeremy, thank you for coming. Paul, always visit. And next time, I think we're going to do, because Jeremy didn't even get to the kind of things we wanted to talk about, is like how to make your house safer. What are the trends?
We didn't get there.
Jeremy, you're coming back.
Too many hot topics.
You're coming back. But this was
really loaded off the island.
I learned a lot. I learned a lot today. And Tina, thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate your input. And Paul, visit anytime.
Very kind. That's a very kind invitation. I'll take you up on it.
Yeah,
we'll give you another pass into Oregon.
I know. Just you know what? You got to stop on the right turns, Paul. That's
I'd love a multi-entry pass because getting a visa each time is hard.
I know. We're trying to keep you Californians out of the friggin'
I noticed you can get a pay raise if you actually moved here, though.
I know.
But you got to. Well, I won't. I'll reserve my normal comment.
You've been listening to St. Helens Town Talk Cafe with Steve Toski. You can email your comments on the show to Steve in care of kohi.radio@gmail.com. And be sure to listen again next time for another St. Helens Town Talk Cafe radio show on KOHI.